envy, the main obstruction within our relationships. Yeah, of course, I have discussed this topic in many parts of the world, and many times people say to me, oh, this was a heart surgery. Yes, I've got it all. Right? So, yes, I plead for a little heart surgery. But this is exactly what I like to stimulate. I like to stimulate introspection, reflection, and internal work. And qualities like envy, they're so subtle. And most of the times we don't even identify them. And we like to think ourselves, we like to think, oh, everybody else is so envious, especially of me. But I don't have that. Of course not. Such ugly qualities I don't have. And actually there is, I think it is, in the word-for-word translation, it says there, kalaha, meaning the envious, and then Prabhupada puts in brackets, almost everyone. Prabhupada has a special sense of humor, how to get points across. Yeah, so that means if it's almost everyone, most likely, and includes me also, right? Why should I be the big exception who is free from it? And another thing to start, let us use this discussion to discover the envy in our heart and not in other people's hearts. Because if we use it to discover the envy in other people's hearts, what does it mean? That we are envious. Yes. So let's not allow our envy to manifest in such a gross way, right? Because we will go through a verse from the Bhagavatam, which describes in very simple words how envy manifests towards seniors equals juniors. And especially when we discuss envy towards juniors, very easily the envious mind and intelligence may think, oh, just see, this is why my seniors behave like this. I always knew there's something wrong. They must be envious. So we don't want to go that way, because otherwise guaranteed we perform Vaishnava Aparad. So that's why I'm saying this discussion is meant to discover the envy in our hearts, and we will have enough to discover there. We don't have to look at other people's hearts. Yes. So now let us understanding, how does envy actually come about? So, as soon as there is the desire for sense gratification, then envy follows. That's why almost everyone is envious in this world, because we are here because we want to enjoy. So, and as soon as there's the desire for sense gratification, immediately envy comes in, because we want to establish that we are the best, in all relationships, not only towards seniors who have something which we don't have. Usually we like to use the term envy in such a way that we use it in relation to a person who has something which we don't have, then we are envious. But I like to understand it a little broader, that it is actually a state of heart. And it comes out in all relationships. We will hear this in the verse. Yes, it's simply a state of heart, because we always want to enjoy the best and be in control and in the end. So, and that comes out in all relationships, even towards juniors, even towards children. We can ventilate all this envy and anger and frustration there. Yeah, so it's a state of heart, and it comes about through the desire to enjoy. As soon as that is there, there's envy there. Is that front door open? Because I think there was just somebody who tried to get in. Maybe leave it open. We want to welcome everybody to hear about envy. Okay, so I fault, being an illusion. Okay, so I would like to discuss the verse, 4th Canto, 8th chapter, verse 34. But please don't look at our phones, because I do want to read this and I want to be interactive. And you please all listen very carefully, and then we collect the aspects of the envious and non-envious behavior towards seniors equals juniors. Yes. Because if you just look at the phone, then it's no big deal to read it off the phone, but we want to hear attentively and remember. Okay, so I will just chant through the Sanskrit. Gunadikam mudam lepshet anukusham gunadamat maitim samanad anvichen natape avibuyate. Translation. Every man, and here man means human, not man in opposition to woman, but human. Prabhupada often uses man, for human being. Every man should act like this. It's the verse, not Prabhupada. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate towards him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. So that last statement is already quite amazing. That in other words, if we just learn how to act in a non-envious way, we will never be affected by the miseries of this material world. Wow, amazing. So now let us hear how Prabhupada unpacks this verse. Generally, when we find someone more qualified than ourselves, we become envious of him. So Prabhupada uses that term now towards more qualified people who have something which we don't have. When we find someone less qualified, we deride him. And we also only do this when we are envious. When we find someone equal, we become very proud of our activities. These are the causes of all material tribulations. So here we hear it another time, that this envious behavior is the root cause of our suffering. The great sage Narada therefore advised that a devotee should act perfectly. Instead of being envious of a more qualified man, one should be jolly to receive him. Instead of being oppressive to a less qualified man, one should be compassionate towards him, just to raise him to the proper standard. And when one meets an equal, instead of being proud of one's own activities before him, one should treat him as a friend. One should also have compassion for the people in general who are suffering due to forgetfulness of Krishna. And often the last sentence, Prabhupada, one more time, hits the nail on the head. these important functions will make one happy within this material world. So a third time this comes up, that if we just learn how to deal in a be happy in this material world. So now, but aren't we always saying we can't be happy in this material world? And here Prabhupada says we can be happy. So what is that? Well, very simple. If we are non-envious, we actually have to be a pure devotee, because we have to be free from the desire of sense gratification. And such a person is in one sense not part of the material world. You know? Such a person is fully absorbed and serving and glorifying the Lord, chanting His holy name, hearing about Him. And so such a person is already with their consciousness in Goloka Vrindavan. So, and therefore they can be happy anywhere. Paris, Helsinki, doesn't matter, because they're already within their mind in the spiritual world. So it's not a contradiction. Yes. So now let us have a look. Let's start with the relationship towards seniors. So what was the non-envious way again? Towards seniors, how do we receive a senior person when we are non-envious?
You're very pleased.
Yeah, we are pleased, we are jolly, right? So I like to start with the with the envious one. If we are envious, we're not so jolly to receive them, right? Oh no, now he's coming. Okay, and we, with a plastic smile, we say, "Oh, Jai Prabhu, nice to see you. How long are you staying? Oh, 3 days. Oh, good." And in our mind, we think, "Oh, thank God, after 3 days he leaves again." And then I have the scene to myself here again. He will not steal my show here. Yeah, so we are not so jolly. And what else do we do? There's even much more than we do that we can do. Not only we are not so pleased and jolly, but what do? Come on.
Sir.
No, envious. You're a step ahead of us, Farouk. You're not envious.
Okay, this is really bad, but we wish something bad, or like.
Yes, maybe we wish him something bad. Yes, and therefore, so we criticize him, we find fault, we talk bad behind his back. You know, yeah, so we are all pretty good at that. You know. And yeah, let us take an example of everyday life in an ISKCON temple. Let us imagine a preacher visits and a friend of ours says to us, "Oh, that was a nice class, wasn't it?" And we say, "Yeah, it was all right, but," you know, and we find something, "but it was not so shastric, didn't quote so many verses." You know. So we find some fault. And in other words, we say, if I had given the class, I know so many more verses. You know, so we try to reduce that person's importance. You know? So now, interestingly, our previous Acharya Sridhar Swami, he says, whether it is true or not, talking about faults of a Vaishnava means we blaspheme him. So even if it is true that the person is not very learned and didn't quote many verses, even if it is true, but just the fact that we want to make this statement, if we reflect, look in our hearts, we have to admit, and that impels us to make that statement, just to reduce the importance of it. Very subtle. We do it quite good. we're free from envy. Yeah, oh yeah, in the name of sharing, that it's interesting, the contaminated intelligence finds all the justifications. Well, it's okay to say this. After all, freedom of speech. That was my experience. Why can't I share that with my friend? This is modern Finland here. Freedom of speech. I can say what I think, And yeah, so like that we justify, and we don't even realize now there is some envy there behind it. Or same with kirtan. Let's imagine somebody leads a kirtan and then some our friend says, oh, that was a nice kirtan. And again we say, yeah, it was all right, but I didn't like the tune. The tune was pretty weird. And his Madanga playing also needs a bit of improvement. So again, we indirectly we say, if I had led the kirtan, I would have chosen such a much nicer tune, and my Madanga playing is better anyway. So like that, we try to reduce that person's position. Yeah. I don't want to start now with questions. Let me just go through it all and then we open up. Because if I invite questions, then we never get to the end. Yeah. And maybe it is just now coming on, So I'd like to first set some foundation for the discussion by presenting certain points. And then we open up for it. So please take a note of your question, don't forget it. Yes, so this is such a common thing we do, and we usually don't even recognize. Yes, so, and there is one more thing we do with seniors when we are envious. Not only do we are not so pleased to receive them, we're criticizing fault finding behind their back. And what else do we sometimes do?
We starve them.
Starve them? What do you mean exactly? Maybe it's
a job. Not giving us
no, but in an emotional way we starve them. By what do we do?
Ignore them?
Exactly, by ignoring them. Pretending they're just nobody or nothing, not worth even saying Hare Krishna. No need to even give attention, we just don't even see them, Yeah, so this is also sometimes happening. And I'm sure we all have people, in our lives, when they come, we don't really want to see them, and we turn the other way or something. Yeah, so, if we are not pleased to see an aspiring Vaishnava who tries to chant Hare Krishna, doesn't matter how many shortcomings he or she may have, then there's something wrong in our part, Yes. Yeah, so these are the main ways how we deal with persons who are senior when we are envious, Yeah, and all this is meant to develop importance and their position, right? So now, the non-envious behavior towards seniors. We said already, we are pleased to see them, and we are really pleased deep from the heart, not just with plastic smile or something, but truly happy and jolly to receive them. And what do? Now you can come.
Serve?
Yes, we serve. And what else?
We give nice words, offer nice words.
Massages ego a little bit.
Well, praising Vaishnava, by praising Vaishnava, one makes spiritual progress.
Okay.
It's even better when it comes from the heart.
Okay.
Why not?
And it won't massage his ego when he doesn't hear it. But we keep that for the false egos. It's also coming. Yeah, so what else do we do? we serve, and what's more important?
Respect.
Yeah, and how do we respect them? How does the respect manifest?
Take advice from them.
Yeah, we want to hear, we want to inquire. You know, Pari Prashnena Sevaya in the Bhagavad Gita. So that's not only towards Guru, but that's towards any more experienced devotee, that we should serve the person in a humble way, and we should inquire, we should learn from that person. That's how we take advantage of the presence of a person who has a little bit more experience. Not only towards preachers and visitors, even in the community. There's always somebody there who has already a bit more experience than we have, you know, and often because we see each other all the time and we become over familiar and we forget that we could actually learn something from that person. You know? Yes. And interestingly, these two elements of hearing, inquiring, and serving enhance each other. So the more we humbly serve, the more we will feel inspired to hear and inquire from that person. And the more we hear and inquire, the more again we want to serve. And again, we want to hear and inquire more. And so they're very important elements of actually making progress. You know? Maybe you also notice that these days people, rather than inquiring from somebody, they love to talk about themselves, right? What they all have been doing and all their big achievements and all this. So to do this in the presence of a senior person would be a little inappropriate. Yeah. Of course, if the person asks us, oh, what are you doing? What's your job? What's your service? And so then we can humbly share. But just talking about ourselves, it has the flavor of boasting and showing off and wanting to impress people how great we are and all this. Yeah, so Vaishnava etiquette is our saving grace. That's why Krishna gives us Vaishnava etiquette and culture. So ultimately it is so we become Trinada Pisunichena, more humble than a blade of grass, more than a tree. If we were there already naturally, spontaneously, then no need for Vaishnava etiquette. You know? But because we're not there, we need the etiquette to cultivate that humility and so on. You know? Yes. Yeah, so let us move on to the juniors. Envious, when we are envious, the behavior towards juniors. Who can remember what was said in the verse in the report? No, envious. Envious, again, you are ahead of us. Seems like you don't know envy. So the envious, we want to start with the envious and then with the non-envious we finish, you know, with the positive. So what's the envious way of relating to a junior? Yeah, and how does that come about? What do we do?
Criticize.
Also criticize, but what did Prabhupada say? Yeah, we are oppressive. We are, you know, what did he say? Deride him. You know, we make fun about him on his expense, that he looks foolish, especially in the presence of others. You know, we put him down. Ha ha ha, how funny. You know, yeah. Or what else do we do? It's a few more things when we are envious of a junior. Yes.
Maybe we don't tolerate or like uncompassionate, maybe.
Yeah, Yeah, so we are impatient. Ah, I can't work with this guy. He's useless. And yes. And what else? Come on. Just be your very self. Oh. Well, we have that mood. Okay, yes, I want you to come up, but definitely not higher than I am. Right? So I'm up here, you're down there. No matter how good you are, you will always be down there. You know, so to actually want somebody to become more successful, more glorious than we are, that really takes non-envy. You know, so yeah, we're careful that it doesn't come up too much. Yes. And it's interesting. There is also, when we delegate, there is an envious and a non-envious way of delegating a task. So the envious way is to have this mood, either you do it or I do it. And if you want to do it, okay, good luck, you do it. And we don't follow up. We don't ask, how are you doing? You need some help, some manpower, some money, some good advice. You know, when we follow up, that's a sign that we want him to be successful. But if we are envious, we don't follow up. He wants to do it, let him do it. And maybe deep in our heart, we hope that he will not be so successful. And then we can say, just see, I knew you can't do it, but you wanted to do it. So there you see what comes out of this. You know, I know I should have done it. I knew, but you were so keen. So there you go. You know, so we rub it in like that. Yeah, that's the envious way of delegating. And yeah, these things do sneak in, you know, and we justify it all. Well, he wanted to do it. I wanted to let him do it. I'm so busy with things. I didn't even see him the whole week, you know. So we find all the reasons and justifications why, yeah, well, we did the right thing, you know. And he was so confident anyway that he can do it, you know. Yeah. So, but the non-envious way of delegating is that we really want the person to be successful, and we follow up, we offer our help. You know, we may even help him, but we let him get all the credit. He did it, you know, and we hope he will be more successful, more glorious than if we had done it. You know, that's non-envious way of delegating. You know. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I hope I'm not too provocative here, but sometimes, you know, we are a little behind of how things are done in companies, in the working world, you know. Not that they are more free from envy than we are, but no, because they are profit orientated. And they know the company makes more profit if I empower others and want them to come up, and then maybe I get some little bonus there in my paycheck or something, you know. Yeah, but they often delegate and empower people in a much more effective way than we sometimes do in ISKCON, you know, because we are not money orientated, profit orientated, hopefully. And therefore we are sometimes still hanging on to this autocratic management style, you know, of I'm the boss and I say and you know. Although, I mean, here just the fact that you're running the show here, young fella, that shows that we are empowering the young generation here, you know, so that's a good sign. It's not everywhere like that, you know. But I always see in those communities where we empower the young generation, you know, that brings the youthful spirit in, and every generation has their contribution to make to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. So if we are hanging on too long to our posts until we are 83 or something, this is not very attractive to the young generation, and then the young generation misses out in making their contribution. Then they're already 50 or 55, so then they actually should already pass on to the next generation. So whole big topic. Yeah, so we are, we are not empowering him. And there's one more thing that we do when we are envious. A couple more things. Anybody has some idea what else we do when we are envious towards a junior? All right, let me help. So the thing is, we give too menial for too long. We don't raise in capacities. Although I also have to say, when a new person joins with highly with good material qualifications, Prabhupada did say that first the person should do menial service, just to become humble servants, sweep the floor, wash the pots, and. Because if we empower people too quickly, this can easily ahead, and they think, oh, just look at me, I'm doing all these things, and these spaced out brahmanas, so I'm much more advanced than them, So we should first get people to do our service. But if we do this year after year after year, and we don't go according to their propensities, so that can also mean that we don't want them to come up, right? And then there's another one. Nobody has an idea. Well, when we unnecessarily and constantly and harshly correct people and chastise people all the time, oh, again, you did this and I told you, yes. Yes, you're laughing, but sometimes we like to do these things, And that's where I was saying, it can even come out towards children, When we carry, let's say, if we go to a supermarket at 6 o'clock in the evening, very often we see these scenarios where a mother just comes stressed out and tired from a whole day's work and picks up the child at the daycare center. Child hasn't seen the mother for the whole day. It's only 2.5, 3 years old. And then the mother screams and yells at the kid, and the kid makes some tantrums there, wants some attention. And so sometimes I've seen this where where parents really lash out on the child for no reason, and the poor child doesn't even know what's happening and what he or she did wrong. So this whole accumulated frustration and anger and envy, we ventilate on a child or a young devotee or something. So we have to be very careful. And here we don't want to, detect the envy in our seniors, but we want to look in our heart. If we have this tendency to constantly, overly harshly and unnecessarily instruct and not criticize, but instruct and chastise people. And sometimes we find that when a new person does everything, So, and then everybody pounces on that new person and, finally I've got somebody I can correct and instruct. the poor new person is completely bewildered, gets instructed and corrected from all sides, sometimes in opposite directions. One person says one thing, the other person says the other thing. So that's why usually one person should be in charge of the new ladies and one of the new men, and only one person that corrects a person. And interestingly, Vaishnava etiquette says one should not even correct a person unless one is non-envious. That's Vaishnava etiquette. So now, but we just said almost everyone is envious, so that nobody can correct anybody, right? No, but yeah, at least we have to be mindful that even if the correction is perfect, but if it is given with envy and false ego, with this huffy false ego mood, again you did, and it actually poisons the best correction. It contaminates that person's heart. Yeah, good to know. Because it is given with envy, and that ignites the person's envy and false ego in their hearts, even in children. So yes, parents, they have to be very careful that they don't give corrections and chastisement in this huffy, envious, false ego mood, because it will poison the child's heart. And then the child will rebel, doing all kinds of stuff there. So parents may wonder, why is my child always rebelling? Well, maybe we give the correction instruction in a huffy mood there. Yes, so this is very important to know. So that means whenever we find ourselves in this situation, when we see a person doing something wrong, and we have this urge, I have to go and tell this person, how can you do this? All agitated, we can hardly control our tongue. We have to say it right now and here. You know that feeling? Yes, ladies, also you know that feeling? Yes? You're very hesitant in nodding your head. Don't be shy to admit. So whenever we find ourselves in this situation, don't correct the person. Don't. Wait until we cool down. Good trick is to sleep it over one night. So next morning, the world looks already differently. Or we may have to sleep it over 2 or 3 nights, depending on how long it takes to cool down. But we should never instruct or correct a person in this huffy, agitated, envious, false ego mood, because it will only poison. I'm sure we have all been in the situation of giving an instruction in that way and receiving a correction in that huffy mood, right? We know that feeling. So how do we feel? Do we feel good? No, we don't, and that's the contamination of the envy and false ego. Envy, false ego, they're good friends, they always like to move around together. Yes, so now it gives us this ugly feeling in the heart. And we may get confused. We may think, well, but the correction I had to give and it wasn't right. I had to say it, but how do we say it? That's the thing, And if we say it with envy and false ego, it poisons the other person's heart and also our heart too. That's why we feel ugly afterwards. Good to know. So we should sleep it over, wait until we cool down. And then there is another very effective little trick. that we have this prayerful mood before we give the instruction, that we say, oh, please, Krishna, help me to get this across in the mood of being their dear, most well-wishing friend, wanting their very best. If we have that prayerful mood, then Krishna allows us to be non-envious, at least for these 2 minutes when we give the correction. Yes. Yeah, so it really works, because if we have that prayerful mood just before we go and correct the person, then it comes in that well-wishing mood and the person can feel that and the person will immediately happily accept it. Maybe false ego is a little bit pinched, but we can feel this person is my well-wisher and wants my very best, so why not accept it? Yeah, so good to know, because so often, we give these corrections in some huffy mood, and then it flares up the false ego in the other person, and the other person defends and can't accept, and and then we are locked in a whole ego battle there, Yes. And often it starts with us giving the instruction or correction in the wrong way, and that ignites the false ego in the other person. Okay, so I think these are the main things towards juniors, envious behavior. So now the non-envious behavior. What did Prabhupada say? Who can remember the magic word? Compassion, yes. Non-envious person, reaches out to everyone he can, wanting to uplift in an affectionate, compassionate way, wanting to become more successful and grow in their spiritual journey, non-envious person can connect with anybody. Prabhupada was a perfect example. Prabhupada could connect with a small child, with a hippie, with a drunkard, with a scientist, with a Christian priest, whatever, in a perfect way for their ultimate benefit of uplifting them. And sometimes Prabhupada was very heavy, calling people fools and rascals, mudras, so many things, But then also he was so jolly and kind. But even when he was very heavy with people, people could feel that his heaviness did not come from an envious heart. And that's why, as a rule, people didn't take offense, Yes. But we can't imitate Prabhupada, So we shouldn't call people fools and rascals and mudras. Often we talk, the kamis and all this. We are talking in a condescending way. We talk down on people, and we don't remember that it's not so long ago that we were also one of the mudras out there. There is this nice story. Korma Prabhu shares this in his book, The Transcendental Adventure, Prabhupada's Pastimes in Australia, where Prabhupada used to go on a morning walk, and he was driving back in the car to the temple with his disciples, and one of the disciples said, it was 6 o'clock in the morning in Melbourne, already 6:30, people to work. So one devotee was saying, oh, look, Srila Prabhupada, all these mudras rushing to work. And then Prabhupada's reaction, yes, how can we save them? That was Prabhupada's reaction. And the devotee was taken a bit aback and looking over to Prabhupada, and he actually saw Prabhupada crying a tear. Yes, how can we save them? But his comment was not so compassionate. Look, Prabhupada, all these mudras rushing to work. That was his point. So we have to be very careful. And we can, introspect when we walk through Helsinki. Are we feeling compassion? How can we save them? Or are we still on the level of thinking, oh, thank God, I'm not one of them anymore or something, and I know, the goal of life, and they don't. Yeah, so we can reflect and see how much compassion have we actually developed, Because to develop compassion, we have to be non-envious, very clear. If we have envy in the heart, we cannot have true compassion. We simply always will want to put people down and make fun out of them and so on. So compassion develops proportionally as we become free of envy. Yes. So now, last relationship, equals. The envious behavior towards equals. Envious, right?
Yes, I want to try for the third time is a charm. Now I will be correct.
Okay.
We become friends.
You're just
No,
making
wrong
fun.
again.
Fun. You're just a joker. So, what's the envious behavior towards equals? We are proud of our activities. That's what Prabhupada said. We chant our own glories. Right? Yes. Let us imagine two not so mature preachers meet. And I'm emphasizing not so mature. So they meet. And in the name of sharing, I'm just sharing with my friend, what's wrong? One says, oh, guess what? I was in LA and there was Rath Yatra. And they asked me to lead the kirtan for 45 minutes. You want to have a look here, YouTube? I'll send you the link, you can watch it. And then the stage program. And again, even though there were so many swamis there, they must have been tired. So they asked me to give the main talk again, YouTube. And then I went to New York and same thing there again. Rath Yatra. I was leading the kirtan and I gave the speech. And all in the name of sharing. And then after a while he says, what about you, Prabhu? What have you been doing? And by then the other person thinks, wow, you're so great, I'm nothing. Not to even, not worthwhile even talking about what I've been doing. So you won the competition. You got the superior. So in other words, the mood is, okay, we are equal, but actually I'm a little superior and I'm going to show it to you. I want to prove it. Like that. Yeah, so we chant our own glories and show off and try to impress the person how fantastic we are, all our big achievements. All in the name of sharing. I'm just sharing with my friend. What's wrong with that? Yeah, so as soon as we are envious, there will be pretty strong competition there between equals. Yes, and being proud of our own achievements. So now, relationship between equals who are non-envious. What's happening there? Friendship, that's what Prabhupada said. But can't we be friends also with seniors or juniors? Yeah, of course. But the friendship amongst equals who are non-envious, there is a special sweetness and intimacy there. Yeah. There is also a kind of competition, but that competition looks very differently. So what's the non-envious competition look like?
Most humble.
You can serve the other more.
Just see how humble I am.
To
What?
serve each other.
Yeah, to serve each other. And what did you say, Prabhu?
Who can serve the other more.
Who can?
Serve the other more.
Yeah, and not only that, yeah, let's say out of Vaishnav humility, we actually see the other person as more advanced. And we want to hear from them, and we want to serve them, and we want to push them forward. So the two equals who are non-envious, they push each other forward. No, Prabhu, you give the class, I want to hear from you. Or Prabhu, you lead the kirtan, your kirtans are so spiritually enlightening. And so they push each other forward. That's the competition. And that's exactly the mood in the spiritual world. It's actually described that the gopis and manjaris, they get more bliss and satisfaction pushing the others towards Krishna, assisting them to make the most pleasing arrangements for the Lord, not to be there themselves, but pushing the others forward. That's the mood in Goloka Vrindavan. So if we want to go there one day, we have to cultivate that spirit. Yeah, because in the spiritual world there is no tinge of envy there, because there's no sense gratification. Yeah, so that is the competition among envious equals. And there's one more thing, that between equals who are non-envious, there's very confidential inquiry about each other's secrets of their bhajans, you know, yes, that they share in a very confidential way and inquire in a confidential way, which can only happen in the level of equals. It cannot happen between junior and senior or senior and junior. But amongst equals, they share their secrets of their devotional life in a very confidential way. That one says to the other, for example, "Oh, Prabhu, you've been in brahmachari for 35 years, every day out there with books in the street. How do you do it? What's your secret?" And the other one says, "And you, Prabhu, you've been married for 35 years. What's your secret? With a sane wife, how do you do it? And you still do so much active service, amazing. What's your secret?" Balancing the work and family and spiritual life. And yeah, so in a very confidential way, they're sharing and inquiring. And that makes that friendship very special and sweet and intimate. But only if the two are non-envious. Yeah. Yeah. So now my question to you, which relationship is most purifying? With seniors, equals, juniors? Equals. Yeah, you all agree? Seniors. Yes. I mean, we can say while we are young, association with seniors is uplifting, you know, especially while we are newer devotees. But yeah, equal association is the most challenging. Equal association brings the most pinching and biting envy from the most hidden corners of the heart to the surface. Yeah. It's definitely on the equal level, you know? Because to associate with juniors, not so difficult to surround ourselves with juniors, and yes, I'm the humble servant, sure. And to associate with the top level guru, god brothers of guru, also not so difficult. We can always hope that some of their glory splashes over to us, you know, because we are that confident. confidential person right next to them all the time to see I'm in every picture, it's me next to Guru. So, you notice? It's always me there. Yes, but equals, that's where we have to show true color, how much of a servant we are, or whether we just want to be that little bit more of a master and controller there, and superior. Yeah, so equal association, most purifying. And we may have that experience, we may or we may not. Two expert cooks cooking lunch for Guru Maharaj. Can be a challenge. Because very easily the competition enters. Who knows best what Guru wants? Now, don't you know, he changed his diet. Now, he told me he wants it like this now. And, I've seen it all. When you've been around for 40 years, you see quite a few things. I've seen devotees stealing each other's pots and stealing each other's burger. Or, the lady in charge says, no need to serve that preparation. I know Guru Maharaj won't like it. It's not good for him. Take it out. No need to serve it. Yes. Yeah, so can be intense. Yeah, yes. In a minute, we are there for questions. So, and His Holiness Varna Swami, he has this formula. As far as I understand, it's not a Shastric one, but it's simply one he came up with to make this point how important equal association is. He says out of 100% of association, 60% should be with equals. 60. And only 20 with juniors and 20 with the top. Yeah. So in our beginning stage, this may be quite natural, being in some brahmacharya ashram or brahmachari ashram, so we have lots of equal association. But then as we become so-called senior, then sometimes we have only 5% equal association and 90% junior and 5% with the top or something. But we should have 60 because the equal association is what really is most challenging, to share our influence with somebody similarly influential. That's a challenge, because there's always this fear there, or maybe he is more popular than I will be, maybe people like him better, his singing, his whatever, so to share our influence with a person who is similarly competent, that's the most challenging. Yes. So we should look for this equal association and not avoid it. Yes. And in the Bhagavatam, there is nice stories. There's Prithu Maharaj in Indra. When Prithu Maharaj wanted to do the 100th horse sacrifice, Indra stole the horse, like stealing the pots and boga, so the yagya can't go on. He stole the horse, and the whole horse stealing went back and forwards, So that's a good example of the difficulty of equal association. Or then there is the other nice story where Lord Brahma wants to see the Lord in Vaikuntha. And the gatekeepers ask him, who are you? Brahma, yeah, okay, who are you? And he gets all agitated. What, you don't know? I'm Lord Brahma, hey, And then what does the Lord do? He calls all the Lord Brahmas from all the universes. And they don't only have 4 heads, there's some with 10, 100,000 heads. So he gives our Lord Brahma a little bit of equal association just to make him a bit more humble. Okay, I'm not the only one here, and there's others who have more heads than I have. Yeah, so, and we can say practically all our tensions, conflicts in the world, outside is gone, inside is gone. It always goes back to this point of the difficulty of eco-association. Yeah. I mean, I have no clue what's happening here in Helsinki. But in other places, or yeah, almost in every place, there's a bit of tension there between some personalities and some ego battles and competition and so on. And we can easily, say, it's some personality clash and this and that. But no, let's make the diagnosis here. It's envy amongst egos. Yes, that's what it is. All right, so now let us see what questions we have, since it is a pretty practical topic. Probably your question is still relevant, or did I answer me wrong?
Well, I'm thinking about
Sorry.
about this. If you criticize somebody for how they're doing the music, for example. But then, of course, there is a system
Yes,
that if one finds some that is not according to what GBC has stated, and how one should proceed.
yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah. So to correct somebody, we have to have a certain position. It has to be our service. Actually, Kadambakana Maharaj once gave a lecture, about this, that we are not a movement of correcting each other, but it has to be our service. We have to act in the service of an authority, managerial authority, mentor, shiksha guru, whatever, And we also have to have a relationship with that person. Because if the relationship is not there, most likely the correction will not be accepted. And if we don't have the relationship and we see something alarming that should be corrected, we have to tell to that trusted person, person's friend or authority or mentor, whatever, who has a trusting relationship. So it's a very delicate thing. And also we have to understand some things. I mean, we imagine if Prabhupada would have corrected everybody constantly, like in the film we watched on Prabhupada's appearance, Harisuri Prabhu was saying we were a sorry bunch. Just all kinds of hippies and LSD addicts, and we were a sorry bunch. That's how he put it. Pretty funny. So you imagine if Prabhupada would have come and corrected everybody all the time, I don't think he would have gotten very far. So some things, we may just have to overlook and know the person, by time going by becoming more purified, things will be corrected, So we can't actually necessarily uplift somebody by constantly correcting things. So we have to be expert in knowing what should be corrected and what can be overlooked. And in this connection, I do want to mention another thing. In one purport, Prabhupada says that a non-envious person is strict with himself and can be liberal with others. That's a good thing to also remember. Let me just give an example. Let's say we don't eat chocolate, and then there's others who eat chocolate. And we get all worked up about it. Oh, they shouldn't eat chocolate, and Prabhupada said, and blah, 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 you know. So, this could be a little envy there, you know, because we actually also like chocolate, but we said, no, we don't eat chocolate, and then we get all envious and worked up if other people enjoy a chocolate cake, you know, and oh, they shouldn't do that. So yeah, non-envious person is strict with himself, but can be liberal with others. Okay, let them eat chocolate. Also interesting. On regards to dress codes, of course we should come in a decently dressed way to the temple, but some people get all worked up. Oh, if she's not wearing a sari and these dopey skirts and this is not what Prabhupada wanted, and yeah. So yeah, very often there is some envy behind it, and we don't even identify it, you know. But it's a nice statement that a non-envious person is strict with himself, simply setting the example, and can be flexible and accommodating with others, and liberal even. Prabhupada could be very liberal on one hand, but on the other hand, uncompromising and strict, you know. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Prabhupada?
Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Mataji. How to determine the equalship? Is it like the seva age when you came to Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, that's a very common question, not only the equal, but also the senior and junior. So the ultimate criteria is somebody's spiritual advancement. Yeah. But that we cannot so easily determine. So that's why we have to take some more external and, if you like, material criteria. And we usually, the most common one is, when did the person join? You know, first initiation, second initiation. Then another one is managerial position. So even a person may be less years in Krishna consciousness, but if he or she has a managerial position, then we consider that person as superior. But then also that manager will, out of Vaishnava humility, will say, actually, no, you are senior, you joined far before me, and all that. Then even the mere age is also a criteria. You know, if a person is 30 years older, just due to their life experience, we respect them as senior. And the renounced ashram, sannyas, is always superior to grihastha, even if the grihastha is a Prabhupada and the sannyasi not. But again, out of Vaishnava humility, the sannyasi will say, actually, no, you are superior, and so on. And especially amongst equals. I remember once in a discussion, one person lifted their hand and said, I don't have a problem associating with equals. And he pointed at his friend. We joined at the same time, and we are good friends, but I could immediately see, yeah, well, he was very influential and his friend was not influential at all. You know, so, you know, then it's no big deal, you know. But so with the equals, I dare say it's more the difficulty in equal influence, equal capacities, you know, yeah, which is challenging, because if we are envious, then we want to be the best, you know, yeah. Yes. But the ultimate criteria is somebody's power of uplifting others. And there we have this nice story with Jada Bharat, King Rahugana, you know, that King Rahugana was carried in the palanquin by Jada Bharat, and he was walking all funny, not wanting to step on the ants. The king chastised him, what is this nonsense? So, and then Jada Bharat gave this eloquent speech, yeah, today you are the king and I'm the carrier, and tomorrow it can be the other way around, and these are just temporary designations. And what did King Rahugana do? He jumped off the palanquin, paid obeisances to Jadabharat, realizing, oh, my palanquin carrier, he is actually an advanced soul. So that's a sign of humility, to actually recognize, even though he is the king, externally he has a superior position, but he recognizes, wow, he is more advanced. Yeah. Anything else? Yes?
How to be saved from conscious or unconsciously doing Vaishnava Prana? Maybe. I got the answer already, but I want to hear more from you.
Well, let's broaden the question a little bit and say, after this discussion, if we realize, oh wow, I've got it all, envious towards seniors, gene equals juniors, that's me, So what do we do? Right? So we broaden it in that way. I have 5 very practical steps. You want to hear them?
Yes.
Okay, they are actually so simple and practical, and they work for any internal transformational work. Whether it's envy or lust or false ego, it doesn't matter. So step number 1 is always hearing about the topic. That's why I like to discuss these topics. We have to hear, we have to become more conscious and mindful that, oh yeah, that's envy actually, We may have never even thought about it because it's so subtle. So hearing is the first step. Step number 2 is desiring to kick it out. Then we realize, okay, with this envy, no question of going back to Goloka Vrindavan. We will not be able to enter. So I have to do something about it. I have to kick it out of my heart. Then step number 3, that's an important one. I mean, they're all important, but to be introspective and honest, always reflecting. What is my motive? Why did I do this? Why did I say this? What just took place in this exchange? That we reflect. Without reflection and honesty, we actually cannot make advancement. We will always find the justifications that we are doing everything right and everybody else around us is wrong. And we just maintain all our unwanted patterns of behaviors. So this introspection and reflection is super important. And at that point, we do need the help of a mentor, a counselor, a coach, a well-wishing friend who can help us to recognize, because in our neophyte stage we can't even notice, we can't even identify. Yes, so introspection and honesty with the help of a mentor, being willing to be corrected and guided. And then comes step number 4, catching ourselves doing the wrong thing. So that's already progress, because so many times we did do the wrong thing, but we didn't even realize. So now we realize, oh, again, I had to have the last word, and again, I had to, the bad. So we catch ourselves doing the wrong thing. So now what's step number 5 after catching ourselves doing the wrong thing? What do you think?
Do something about it.
Yeah, what do we do? Huh?
Shant.
Chant. Can you specify a bit more? In what mood do we chant?
Pray Krishna.
Yes, we cry out to Krishna. Exactly. Often people say, well, we just make a commitment, we don't do it again. Well, if it was that easy, We can say ourselves all the time, I'm not going to do it, and 5 minutes later we do it again. Because these things, envy, false ego, this is so deep-rooted. We've been carrying this with us for so many lifetimes. Only Lord Nrsingadev can save us. Yes. So we bitterly cry out to Lord Nrsingadev. He is the expert heart surgeon with his sharp fingernails. Yes. Because envy, false ego, Hiranyakashipu, right? He's the embodiment of envy and false ego. And as I said, we've been carrying him with us for so many lifetimes. Only Nrsingadev can get rid of him. Yes. Actually, Nrsingadev prepares our heart so that one day we can approach Radha Krishna. That's why in Mayapur, Darshana Arti, we greet Nrsingadev first. Then we go over to Panchadatta, get their mercy. And then only we go over to Radha Madhav. So there's a reason behind this. It's not just some coincidence or it's more convenient to go this way or something. Yeah. So Lord Nrsingadev, that's where we have to start crying out to Lord Nrsingadev, please free me from this envy of wanting to be the best and stand out and be special and all this kind of thing. Yeah. So, and if we do these last three things of being introspective and honest, catching ourselves doing the wrong thing, crying out to Lord Nrsingadev, introspection and honesty, catching ourselves doing the wrong thing, crying out to Krishna. So then sooner or later we come to step number 6, catching ourselves doing the right thing. So some daily situation will come our way and we all of a sudden we feel, oh wow, this time I can just let it go by. I don't have to put my little nasty comment in and put the person down and diminish the person's importance and all that. So I can just let it go by and I actually don't feel this envy anymore and so on. So then we see, yes, actually Lord Nrsingadev is helping if we sincerely beg him. But our problem is that we have this illusion of thinking that this envy also gives us some juicy, enjoyable fruits to enjoy, And that's why we kind of maintain it and we hope, oh, nobody knows. It's all right. Everybody's got envy, no problem. So and then, all right, Nrsingadev lets us have it, But if we sincerely cry out to Lord Nrsingadev, he is helping. So it requires constant internal work, always reflecting. This reflection and introspection has become like our second nature, constantly, every day. And that's why devotee association, either in family life or serving together, is so important. Because other people, they act like mirrors to ourselves. They reflect our behavior. So sometimes people say, oh, I keep separate, I stay aloof, and I don't like to come to the temple. There's always some problem there. So I just come when I want. Well, we miss out on the purification, But if we really dive into service in the association of devotees, that's where the purification happens. Before people get restless and want to get up and leave, maybe I should one more time say something about these books, because maybe not everybody has seen them and knows what they're all about. So, Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. This book is all about women. We women are very powerful. We have a very powerful Shakti. And Bhagavatam says we should be the power of inspiration to the men. And we should not compete with a man. Yes. But now man-woman equality, we women often compete with a man, and the men usually don't like that very much. Maybe some of us have noticed this. So yeah, this is very interesting. When you read this, you will realize how this man-woman equality actually puts the whole human society upside down. Yeah. Here I kind of feel safe to say this. In America, I wouldn't say. But yeah, and because this is why the men in Kali Yuga become so weak and irresponsible, because we women don't empower them anymore. We empower ourselves. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fascinating to discover how Krishna's system is so perfect and how it functions perfectly, and at the same time how far we are away from Krishna's system. So especially women, we should all read this. Yes, yes. In India, many temples use this book as a handbook for brahmachari training, even though the whole book is about women, so that the men also understand what role we women are meant to play. You know? Yes. Well,
May I ask a question related to it?
let me just quickly, because people are becoming restless, let me just quickly, and you can always ask me privately. Sheltering relationships. In this book, we find the topic of envy. It's in this book, even in more detail than what I can give in this one now. There's also a whole chapter on the culture of correcting others, culture of respect, so many things. So this book is all about the mentorship, you know, yes. That in order to make advancement, we need a mentor, and eventually we have to serve as a mentor. We will realize without having a mentor and eventually becoming one, we actually cannot make advancement. That's in this book. Then we have the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. We will have 2 seminar sessions on this. The whole seminar is actually 10 hours. That's how I give it a mark. Very insightful. False ego, oh, so subtle. You know, we usually miss it, and we do the opposite very easily of what we should be doing, feeding and boosting the false ego instead of subduing and dissolving. And there's a whole chapter on chanting also. I do like to conduct holy name retreats. I have a very nice one every year over Christmas in Ekachakradam. So if you want to escape the dark phase here and come to India, this year, 24th to 28th of December, we have the Ekachakra retreat. And I just received a message of Chandramoli Swami. He wants to participate again. He won already once he came, and he wants to come along again. So having him there will be good fun. Yeah, so there's a whole chapter on chanting, you know, yeah. Very insightful. These retreats, you enter a different reality. We stay 4 nights in Ekachakra. Who of you has been to Ekachakra? Not so many. So you haven't been, so you have to go.
What is it called?
Ekachakra is the birthplace of Lord Nityananda. So we have to get Nityananda's music. Very nice place. It's a beautiful big ISKCON temple now, and I booked already the whole thing out. I've been doing it every year for 15 years. Very deep and sweet experience. Yeah, you realize that there's much more to the chanting than what we think. Yeah. Then we have entering the Grihasthashram. This is a handbook for matchmaking. How to see that a man and a woman are compatible for marriage. There's a whole list of over 200 topics which both should discuss with a cool head, without pink glasses. That's why I made it pink, by the way. Because the pink glasses, you know, we can't see what we get ourselves into. And then after 2 years, the pink glasses fade away, and oh no, why did I get involved with this person? Yeah, so very important. We have such a high divorce rate, and very often it is because of bad matchmaking, that people are actually not matching. Yes. So very important for people who are not married yet, or people who want to help others to find a matching partner. You should have a matchmaking committee in Finland. And then we have family life as an ashram, secrets of success. How to create the culture of bhakti in your home. This is such an important thing. Many married devotees' home, you can't call it an ashram, actually. Yes, it requires a bit of training and education to understand what is required to really make it a place suitable for cultivating bhakti. And if the culture is there, then the kids very naturally, they grow into Krishna consciousness. But if it's not properly lived, then the kids don't want to take to it. And there's a whole chapter on the fourth principle in marriage. What does it mean to live this principle of no illicit sex life in marriage? There's a bit of confusion over this. Nobody talks about it. People are puzzled how to make things work. So I did a bit of research. I came across interesting episodes and instructions with Prabhupada where he says things which most of us haven't heard. And it's not in the Bhagavatam. Shastra always gives the highest standard to strive for. But everything is in Krishna consciousness a gradual process. And on the one-to-one, Prabhupada was very clear on this. So I hope this book will make our family life more Krishna conscious and yet emotionally balanced and healthy. Yes. And last but not least, the Vanapasashram, meeting death with joy. There's a whole chapter on death. What happens, how to prepare, what to consider with our own departure. For other people, how to support them, our parents. We have to know how to give people the maximum support when they leave, Such an important service. Somehow by Krishna's arrangement, I've supported quite a few people. My own parents, I parked all my traveling preaching, flew back to Germany, kept them at home. Both of my parents had an amazing departure. Yeah. Completely focused and cool and woof, like that. No morphine and painkillers and all this stuff. Yeah, so all our life we need good association, and especially in this last phase. So there's a lot of practical things in there. And of course there's a whole part on the Vanapasashram. What is it? People don't even plan for it. There's no education, nobody talks about it. Very important phase, very practical. All the books are practical application, all based completely on Prabhupada. And actually the first 3 books, I forgot to say this, I have them available also in Russian. I took quite a few Russian books with me, but I haven't met any Russian devotees hardly. So I hope I'm gonna meet them, maybe they're online or something. So I have some Russian books waiting for you here. So if anybody wants some books, they're 15 euros each. You can pay cash, mobile pay, or card. So we are well equipped. So please, if anybody wants some books, you can come up to me right now and we'll work it out. Okay, so thank you so much. What topic do we have tomorrow? I forgot.
Power of forgiveness.
Power of forgiveness. That's a good one too. Oh yes. Often we are offended and we can't forgive, we can't let go. We still remember 20 years later what that person did to me. Oh yeah, you're laughing, but I come across this quite a lot. Yes, we keep these grudges. yeah, good topic, another juicy one. So please come back tomorrow. Thank you so much, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Go